Okay, so how would you feel as a founder if one of your employees move ahead with executing something that you were initially hesitant about? Like, I use my words very carefully. Yes, hesitant about. And it happened with me, and the transition, I wouldn't say transition, but more like transformation that really happened was what that happened that basically, I would say, even surprised the founders, right? So I started my work journey, and I was working for this early stage company. And this early stage company, so it was, let me just paint a scenario, right? It was a content writing and marketing agency. So how content writing works is that we have writers are writing the blogs, and when they're writing the blogs, that is then taken up to that blogs that taken up to the editors. Then editor is the one who does all the editing, and then that's how it's sent to the clients. You know, all the process that I mentioned over here. So just imagine there are, for example, 5 writers, there is 1 editor, there are founders, and then there are clients as well. Now imagine all of that internal work was packed on Slack. I know Slack is so commonplace that everyone knows about it, but Slack is a way for you to interact, to converse, to talk about any issues, or have your be in conversation with either people within the company or even your clients. But for these type of projects, and having like 10 to 15 groups with different topics rolling around, it was a mess. I'm going to be blatantly say this. It was actually a mess, and it was so I would say convoluted, in that sense that it reached to the chaos at one point that even they ended up losing one client, and they had no idea to trace back the steps of who was responsible for this. If the writer was able to produce, they weren't able to do that because they had no chain to do it. When I got onboarded and I saw this, and the thing is that I was hired as a business development person, right? But when I saw this, I realized that it was more than a business development, because my hands were in every part of the business. I was doing HR, I was doing project management, I was hiring, I was doing marketing, I was doing business development as well. So when I realized that, I thought, okay, now even though I have a lot on my plate, the thing that needs to be done is proper organization, because if that's not done, then nothing would even matter. Even if you bring in 100 clients, you would lose them left, right, and center, because your internal chaos is going to take over, and you're going to go back into the same position wondering why nothing is happening and why am I losing clients, revenue, money, right? So I realized, okay, I need to set priorities. After I was done with preparing internal documents, surprise, I was also preparing those. When I was done preparing those documents, I moved ahead and talked to the founders that, you know what, I really do think that the Slack conversation is going to create a serious halt, especially when it comes to business moving towards growing. Right now, if for example there's a small business, right, if you as a founder, when it comes to a small business, if you ignore these small nuances that would make a biggest difference when you grow, then when you grow, those small nuances are going to turn up into such huge problems that you won't even realize what kind of the mess you're into, right? So I shared with them. Then I shared that what I think would be the right way to go about it, and there was this software that I really wanted to explore. That was Trello. And Trello is so organized in a way of its boards, of its cards, of its this categorization. It was just so seamless. And when I talked to them, and they said to me, we have already thought about that it would be like that better way, but we really don't want to stall the work. So they were very hesitant about it. So I just said that the work stall, yes, that's a good point, but what's more important is a proper submission, something that shows you as a clear picture or an open book per se of what's happening. Because if that doesn't happen, there would be no way for you to even trace back the steps, trace back the proof, trace back the documents. Like, nothing would be possible. So they said that, okay, you can do, like, if that works out for you, right? But we really don't want work to be halted at all. Like, they were hesitant, they thought about it, they didn't move forward with it because they were really scared of losing the work. And they told me, if you can actually bypass that, then just go ahead. And I was like, okay. I knew that, okay, for them, main important things that work do not to be stalled, right? So I was like, okay, so I structured the work submission in terms of the priority basis, right? First work was that Trello being a new platform, writers already overwhelmed with writing, sometimes maybe close to burnout, something like that, right? So I needed to be very cognizant of that fact, right? So first I made a presentation, like a simple presentation explaining them how to navigate Trello, right? Then I worked on the submission. So there was writers who were submitting daily. There were writers who were submitting, for example, after every day, every other day, or something like that. And then there were writers who were submitting weekly, right? So I knew that the most urgent are the ones that are submitting every day. And if daily submissions are for example, are made in that way, that means that writers needs to be on there first and foremost, so that once that one day is focused on that one writer, because then again, small company, very small group of writers, one day focused on one writer, answering every questions and taking care of everything. It was so easy, like it was smooth like a butter. I'm not even kidding. For to get the writer on the Trello, and that work was already taken care of because the editor was there, and the work editing and the way boards were working, that was perfect. Then it came on to the other writer that was, for example, submitting every other day. Then comes on to just migrating those writers towards the Trello, and then that comes on to the weekly and the occasional one as well. So that's the steps when I took those, not only structuring, not only just taken into account the main goal and the main hesitance the founders had. I was able to make sure to develop a strategy that would make the transition seamless. And when it was transition, oh my god, everything was like an open book. When I tell you how the writers were there, when all the blogs that were assigned, whom they were assigned, and what stage of the process they were at, what state of the process the editing was at, how the editing is um, uh, tagged with the editor, because the editors were tagged as well, and that just became like a, I would say, like a proper train. Okay, one done, then the second box, then the third box, and then the final submission. So that whole structure really helped in making sure that the internal work is seamless, because the internal work is not taking care from the very start of you building your business, whatever that is. Then in the later years, it's going to turn out to be a chokehold for you, and that's when the spiraling, that's when the oh my god, how did that happen, is going to take place, right? So that it's just one of the ways that I was able to help. So this is a part of thinking that needs to be adopted, because if your internal structure and you are considering the part that, okay, right now it's working, let it work, let me just focus on other things, when we are able to grow, we are going to figure it out. But why are you delaying? Why? If you're a founder, if you're a visionary, you already know right now you have 2 clients, right? After, for example, 5-year goal is to get 20 clients. 20 clients on a very submitting work on a very shaky ground. Like, do you really think that would work? And if it didn't work out for them, then there's a possibility that the same spiral, the same, oh my god, like, how is going to work out, things can happen to you as well. So before you even move forward and think about, okay, I can take care of this later, okay, you know what, I'm hesitant if I can move forward with it, if works are going to halt it, if I'm going to lose client, take a deep breath. And first, deep breath, definitely. Second would be, how can you navigate this, right? Yes, you're going to, with the use of AI, with the use of technology, it's possible you are able to figure it out and you're able to see that it needs a structure. Okay, now I'm going to be building it when I have 2 to 3 clients, because I know when I'll grow, I need the company to grow with it, because if the company is still in its early bird ages, then the growth idea is there and the effort is, idea is there, effort is there, but due to that holding back of the company, you're actually losing more than you realize. And if, for example, you think that, okay, you are moving towards something proper, you are moving towards something growing, but at the same time you are very I would say very practical and very careful enough to realize that this is something I need to take care of in the early years, and you cannot have that on your plate, then having someone internally or having an external eye to look at is also a good way for you to have that proper structure in place. Because believe me when I tell you that those small nuances, like going back to the same words, those small nuances that you think can be taken care of later can actually turn into disasters. And in order to even navigate those disasters, think about the fact that you're not even able to trace back your steps, right? And then in order to get rid of the chaos, think about the position you would be in and think about how much money you would be investing in and the mental state you would be in, because you won't be getting the results that you hope you would. So I really hope with this you're able to understand that how to look at what you're building a little differently.